Labor's put out their first election ad. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, and welcome to this episode of Heiser Says. I thought today we'd have a look at this election ad from Labor and have a bit of a talk because they're already starting. There was rumours that the election will be called on the weekend, hasn't eventuated, but there were already people near my daughter's ballet class, Labor people starting to canvass, going out there with their placards and their signs. So we're pretty much in an election cycle, everyone. So I thought we'd have a look at this first advert, just have a bit of a talk about it, because I'm sick about vegans. There was another protest yesterday. I'm sick about talking to them. So let's make fun of Labor. Or, well, let's have a look to see if we can make fun of them. I think we can.
Hi, I'm Bill Shorten. As the dad of three, I know Labor's Fair Go plan is good for families.
So there you go. That's the first way that they've framed it, as a father of three. Now, I looked into Bill, just his background a bit, because frankly, all I know about him is a union guy and the shadow master, faceless man kicking out all the former prime ministers. But I didn't realize that he's estranged from his dad. And if you look just at his family history, I would argue, I'd put a carton on the fact that he's a bit of a mama's boy. Bit of a mama's boy. Just look up onto Wikipedia. And when you have that perspective on him, his entire just political philosophy, his approach to things, the fact that he's got all these gender quotas and ideological tenets to his position just makes a lot more sense, because your childhood does frame you. It does frame you.
Labor will upgrade hospital emergency departments, help meet cancer treatment costs and invest in MRI machines and scans.
So they're going to upgrade our EDs, which I think is not a bad idea, investing in hospitals, but that's more a state government issue, not really a national one. In Queensland, we recently had issues with some of our EDs banking up patients on trolleys. We've got a Labor government here. But on a global scale, our emergency departments, at least the ones I've seen in Queensland, are cutting edge. They are cutting edge. They're fast. They're efficient. Even the 13 Health phone number that you can call instead of going to an ED is a fantastic idea because it keeps people out of them. So, sounds good. And remember, this is just a piece to persuade or to encourage people to think, oh, yeah, that sounds nice. And the majority won't look into it with any greater depth. Here we're talking about investing in MRI machines. Okay, fantastic. Should the government do that? Is the government the only one that can? Or could there be opportunities for private investors to do it? Maybe the government can make it easier. Too bad every MRI machine, and I haven't looked this up, but I bet every single one comes from overseas, because we can't make them here.
We'll raise wages.
Raise wages. Is that the job of the government? Is that the job of the government? There's two ideological positions that you have. One, the government will raise wages. They'll set a minimum wage to make sure no one falls below that. The other one is that the government needs to step out of the way of the economy to allow wages to rise. Frankly, with Labor and Liberal at the helm in Australia, they're both very interventionist parties. Even the conservative side of Liberal, and they don't allow the economy to ebb and flow as much as you might want. And I suspect in the long term we're going to suffer for it. And even if they raise wages, during an economic downturn, what do you think is going to happen? Let me know in the comments, guys.
Properly fund schools.
Properly fund schools. Now, aren't schools properly funded already? And that's another state issue. It's not a federal issue. What that means is you'll probably just take some federal funding out of private schools and then put that towards public schools, which are all saying, yeah, of course, that's fair, Comrade Florian. You have to remember, people who send their children to private schools are reducing the load on the public sector and are also tax-paying citizens. We're homeschooling through a distance ed private school as well. It's a lot cheaper. It's awesome.
Invest in renewables to keep power prices down.
No, I'm just gonna jump back to get that. There we go. Invest in renewables to keep power prices down. Now, sometimes when you sit up late at night and you're contemplating philosophy or just the meaning of existence, and you kind of think, what would there be if there's nothing? Even by defining nothing, it has to be, and you kind of get in a mental loop. Or maybe I just do. Maybe I haven't had enough steins of coffee, or maybe too many steins of coffee. But just hearing this sentence, invest in renewables, the most expensive form of energy creation to keep power prices down. That sentence doesn't actually make any sense. I've noticed that Scott Adams is starting to talk a lot about fourth generation nuclear power. And I haven't even looked at any of it yet. But why aren't, this would be good if you're saying investing in nuclear power, if they weren't chasing the Greens vote, if they were appreciating their working class base and wanted to actually invest in infrastructure projects that would create jobs and reduce the cost of living to the average Australian, this should say invest in nuclear power to keep power prices down, to make Australia a leader in the world. Because, the embodied energy in these things, it doesn't stack up, guys. It just doesn't stack up. And there's no consistency to it. It just ebbs and flows with nature. We're literally going back to a time where we're being nature's little bitch. We're going to let them slap us around. We're not controlling nature, controlling the atom. No. So it just shows me they've lost their way. They really have.
Prices down and tackle climate change.
Tackle climate change. Okay, so he's going for the inner city young couple there to tackle climate change. Any rational, sensible person who doesn't let their emotions get manipulated would understand that the best way to address climate change is through technological innovation. The best way to reduce carbon energy usage is looking at advanced nuclear technology, not investing in look, what are we showing here? Look at this thing. Look at this. This technology, generating power from the wind, using the energy of the wind, is not advanced. It's very old. We've been using the power of the wind since, thousands of years to grind corn, as pumps, as machinery. This is not advanced technology. Sure, now we're doing it with a huge steel structure that kills birds and blots out the landscape that is probably less renewable than a timber windmill. Why have they ever looked at timber ones? Could smaller timber ones produce more energy? I don't know. If someone knows, let me know in the comments, because that's completely renewable material. I love timber. So it's a throwback. It's a throwback. Everyone feels good, but it's a throwback.
Power prices down and tackle climate change. We'll pay for our plan by closing tax loopholes.
Okay, closing tax loopholes. Now that sounds, it sounds fair just on face value. Yep, they're going to get rid of the tax loopholes. He hasn't mentioned his changes to negative gearing. He hasn't mentioned what tax loopholes he's going to close. When they say closing tax loopholes, I just think, as a skeptical bastard, that it's more taxes. We're going to pay for it by taxing you more.
Making banks and multinationals pay their fair share of tax.
Making them pay their fair share of tax. Yeah, well, I really question the ability of countries to shift profit outside of regions. Ireland, whenever you buy anything from an online service based here, or even when you shop in Apple, you get a bill, invoice from Ireland. So I think there has to be a simplification of our tax system. It has to be much simpler, not adding more complexity to it, which is what they're going to do. I need to do a video just looking at a nice simple 2% flat tax on everything, but we'll see.
Labor, a fair go for Australia.
Okay, so that's their fair go for Australia. So, what do you think, guys? What do you reckon? Do you think it's a good advert? Do you think it works? Are you a fan of... Oh, sorry, I had to show that. That's the standard one. But let's look back. Let's look back and remember other Labor promises. And here we go. You might remember this guy.
By 1990, no Australian child will be living in poverty.
And it's not true. It's not true. Our poverty rates are stagnant or getting worse. Quality of life is going down. Let's have a quick look at a few things on the Labor, their website here. Here you go. Shorten, he's framing himself as a family man. And one thing I just thought was interesting that I wanted to talk to you about campaigns. And there's one here I just saw, Save Medicare. Now, They want you to sign up, add your name to a petition to tell the government. And this is a persuasion technique. They want you, and every single one of these things that I've seen, a lot of them have these things where you sign, you put your name down. And I'm going to do a video on the dangers of doing this, because once you identify with something like this, it becomes part of your character, part of your identity, particularly if your name is going out there in public. And then people will irrationally defend it. They'll suffer cognitive dissonance when you give them counter information, and it won't convince them. It will not convince them. And Medicare, I mean, remember Mediscare, where they sent out fraudulent lying texts to people at the election, and I still remember standing at a polling booth hearing the people lie to pensioners about it. So guys, thank you for joining me for this episode, and I promise we'll be back to our regular, vegan week, I should call it, because there was another protest, but we'll see. I'm getting a bit tired of them, and they just hammer you with the comments. Anyway, everyone, thank you for watching. Like, share, subscribe, ding the bell to see my daily updates, and I'll see you all again later. Bye for now.